Hello students, let's start with a new chapter, that is compressible fluid flow. Today we'll learn the topic application of continuity, momentum and energy equation in steady state. So let's start with the continuity equation. The equation of continuity, which is applicable for compressible as well as incompressible fluids, has been developed and which may be expressed as del P upon del T plus del rho U upon del X plus del rho V upon del Y plus del rho W upon del Z, which is equal to 0. Further, as discussed, for one-dimensional steady flow of compressible fluids, the equation of continuity reduces to rho AV is equal to constant, where rho is the mass density of the fluid at any section of the flow passage having its cross-sectional area as A and the average velocity of the flow as V. Obviously, for the flow of compressible fluids, all this, that is rho A and V, may vary along the flow passage. The one-dimensional equation of continuity for the flow of compressible fluid may be expressed in the differential form as d rho AV is equal to 0. Next is momentum equation. The momentum equation for compressible fluids is similar to the one derived for incompressible fluid. This is because in momentum equation, the change in momentum flux is equated to the force required to cause this change. The momentum flux is the product of the mass flux and the velocity v, and the mass flux is written as rho into A into V. By the continuity equation, the mass flux rho AV is constant from section to section, as the momentum equation is completely independent of the compressibility effects, and hence for compressible fluids, to the momentum equation for say in x direction, it may be expressed as summation of Fx is equal to rho AV into Vx for the second fluid or at second section minus rho AV into Vx at first section. Next is energy equation. The total energy ET at a point in a compressible fluid flow system comprises the following, that is kinetic energy, potential energy, pressure energy, molecular energy, and all this can be expressed as total energy, that is represented as ET, is equal to kinetic energy, that is EK, plus potential energy, that is EE, plus pressure energy, that is EP, and plus molecular energy, which is EM. And this is my equation 1. According to the law of conservation of energy, the total energy at one point in a fluid flow system plus the energy added EA minus the energy subtracted ES between 2 points must be equal to the total energy at the second point in the system, that is EK plus EE plus EP plus EM plus EA. EA is the energy added and ES is the energy subtracted, should be equal to EK plus EE plus EP plus EM, and this is the energy at the second point, and this is my equation number 2. Equation 2 shows that the energy can be changed from one form to another on two sides of the equation, but the total must be the same. In other words, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. For incompressible fluids, due to the resistance to the flow of fluid, a part of the energy is converted into heat energy, which is considered indirectly as the energy loss. However, for a compressible fluid, the heat energy produced or supplied may be stored as the molecular energy, which is termed as internal energy, and it must be included as a specific part of the energy equation. So if we can see in the energy equation, we are including the molecular energy, that is Em. Since the molecular energy of the compressible fluid is developed due to the activity of the molecules, it increases with the increase in the temperature of the fluid. Further, as indicated earlier in thermodynamics, the sum of pressure energy, that is P upon omega, and the internal energy I is known as enthalpy, that is represented as En, and hence En is equal to P upon omega plus I. Equation 2 can thus be written in terms of the energy per unit weight of the following fluid as V square upon 2G plus Z plus En for the first part plus Ea minus Es, that is the added energy and the subtracted energy, is equal to V square upon 2G plus Z plus En at the second part, and this Z is nothing but the datum energy, in which V2, or I can say V square upon 2G is kinetic energy, Z is the potential energy, and En is enthalpy, each of this being per unit weight of the fluid. In case of isothermal flow, since the temperature remains constant, I1 is equal to I2, and hence P1 upon omega 1 will be equal to P2 upon omega 2. Therefore, En1 will be equal to En2, where En is enthalpy. Further, Ea is usually the heat energy H, for which isothermal flow is equal to the work done. Now, if there is no loss of energy, that is Es is equal to 0, then for a frictionless isothermal flow of fluid, the energy equation becomes K multiplied by log to the base E P1 upon P2 will be equal to V2 square upon 2G minus V1 square upon 2G plus Z2 minus Z1. So now this is the energy equation for frictionless isothermal flow. In the case of adiabatic flow, there being neither addition nor removal of heat energy, therefore Ea is equal to H, which is again equal to 0. Hence I1 minus I2 is equal to W, which is equal to 1 upon K minus 1 in the bracket P1 upon omega 1 minus P2 upon omega 2. Thus, for this case, En1 minus En2 is equal to K upon K minus 1 in the bracket P1 upon omega 1 minus P2 upon omega 2. Again, if there is no loss of energy for a frictionless adiabatic flow, or I can say isentropic flow of fluid, the energy equation becomes K upon K minus 1 multiplied by P1 upon omega 1 minus P2 upon omega 2, which is equal to V2 square upon 2G minus V1 square upon 2G plus Z2 minus Z1. Further combining the equations obtained above, we get P1 upon omega 1 multiplied by K upon K minus 1 in the bracket 1 minus P2 upon P1 raised to K minus 1 upon K is equal to V2 square upon 2G minus V1 square upon 2G plus Z2 minus Z1. For the flow of gas, the potential head difference, that is Z2 minus Z1, is usually small as compared to the pressure head terms, and hence it may be neglected in the above equations. Thank you.